Release the printer!
Everything in our power to find Princess Tilda.
Babies, you will drown in the flood. We will not
Harry, what the heck is going on?
So everyone's benefit, and we get the added benefit of wiping out the Kingsman.
Hello and welcome to 2.2 Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2014 movie titled The Kingsman, The Secret Service. Eggsy is a brilliant hoodlum kid who constantly wears his signature flat cap because his father died tragically when he was young. But his home life is a complete disaster, as his mother constantly brings home dangerous, disreputable men from the local street gangs. Eggsy absolutely cannot stand seeing his mother embracing these thugs inside his own house. Therefore he decides to walk out the door, escaping into the streets just to avoid getting even more uncomfortable. But the universe refuses to give him a break. When he and his friends head down to the local bar to hang out, Eggsy accidentally runs directly into the ruthless henchman of his mother's current boyfriend. Just a few words of disagreement spark an immediate confrontation, and Eggsy is violently kicked out of the bar by the thugs, completely wasting the can of beer he had just bought. But this guy named Eggsy isn't exactly a well-behaved victim. Turns out, he had stealthily pickpocketed the car keys right off the main thug during the argument. He spots their prized yellow Subaru parked directly in front of the bar. Eggsy jams the key into the ignition, and the moment the thugs hear the engine roar from inside, they sprint out of the bar only to see their beloved sports car spinning violently in place, the tires screeching and producing massive clouds of white smoke. Therefore, the thugs are left completely anxious and helpless as Eggsy slams the gas and drives the car straight away into the night. Furious, the gang members hurriedly call their boss, heavily exaggerating the story and complaining about the disrespect. But unexpectedly, Eggsy is forced to slam the brakes and spin the car around. Turns out, the local police have already set their sights on the stolen vehicle and blocked the road. Therefore, Eggsy is forced into a high-stakes pursuit where he displays his extraordinary natural driving talent. While being aggressively chased by the police, he maintains a crazy, suicidal speed, tearing through the narrow streets without slowing down at all. A small cat suddenly darts directly into the middle of the road. Eggsy instinctively swerves to avoid killing it, therefore losing total control and crashing violently into a parked car on the side of the road. Hearing the sirens closing in, Eggsy tells his friends to run and get out of the car immediately, choosing to stay behind entirely alone to take the full blame. Therefore, the police chief locks him in an interrogation room and warns Eggsy not to be foolish, because taking the blame for this gang means he is facing 15 months in a maximum security prison. Eggsy is facing a brutal 15 months in a maximum security prison. Therefore, he realizes his back is completely against the wall and decides to make a high-stakes phone call. The moment the police chief leaves the interrogation room, Eggsy pulls out a specialized metal medallion hanging around his neck. Looking at the metal, a flood of memories instantly triggers. Turns out, 17 years ago, Eggsy's father was an elite member of an ultra-secret spy organization. During a lethal mission, his father heroically sacrificed himself to save his commanding officer, Harry Hart. Therefore, a grateful Harry tracked down Eggsy and his grieving mother, handing them this exact medallion and promising that if they ever landed in a life-or-death crisis, help was just one phone call away. Eggsy reads the secret serial number engraved on the back of the medal and dials the digits into the police station landline. But he has no idea if anyone will actually answer. But the secret line is incredibly effective. The high-level clearance instantly overrides the local police department, therefore allowing Eggsy to walk out of his jail cell a completely free man just minutes later. Eggsy steps out into the rain-soaked streets, but he isn't alone. A refined, impeccably dressed gentleman is standing right outside the door waiting for him. That man is Harry, the exact same spy who handed him the medallion 17 years ago. Harry currently uses a luxury London tailor shop called Kingsman as a front for his global espionage network. He has already thoroughly reviewed Eggsy's entire file, recognizing that the kid possesses extraordinary natural potential, but because Eggsy lacked a father's guidance from a young age, he completely lost his way, turning into a reckless street hoodlum. But their conversation is violently interrupted when a group of heavy thugs storms inside the bar. Turns out, Eggsy's mother's boyfriend discovered his prized Subaru was wrecked and his henchmen were humiliated. Therefore, he dispatched this heavy-hit squad to teach Eggsy a lethal lesson. Harry tries to remain professional, wanting to avoid a messy street brawl, therefore he stands up to exit peacefully. But as Harry reaches the exit, the lead thug mocks his tailored suit and spits an insult directly at his face. Therefore he decides it's time to teach these street punks a lesson in basic etiquette. He locks the pub doors, turns around.
Are we going to stand around here all day? Sorry about that.
After dealing with everyone in the pub, Harry turns his attention toward Eggsy, raising his weaponized watch as if he plans to shoot the boy with a memory-wiping poison needle. Therefore, a panicked Eggsy hurriedly guarantees that he won't breathe a single word about what just happened. Therefore, Harry spares him, pats him on the shoulder, and exits into the night. But in reality, Harry didn't want to erase Eggsy's memory at all. He just wanted to test his loyalty and scare him. But the moment Eggsy returns home, his mother's gangster boyfriend explodes in a fit of pure rage, severely beating Eggsy for humiliating his crew. He even pulls out a knife, pressing the blade against Eggsy's throat and forcing him to reveal exactly who beat up his henchman in the bar. But Eggsy truly possesses an unbreakable spirit, gritting his teeth and refusing to breathe a single word about Harry. But unexpectedly, every single threat spoken inside the house is being transmitted directly back to Harry. Turns out, when Harry patted Eggsy on the shoulder at the bar, he secretly planted a high-tech listening device on his jacket. Therefore, Harry feels incredibly lucky, realizing his fallen comrade's son is genuinely brave and highly trainable. Harry activates the two-way transmitter, and his voice suddenly echoes loudly right inside the room, completely startling the thug holding the knife. Harry commands Eggsy to get out of the house immediately and head straight to the luxury tailor shop they discussed. But the gangster's heavy henchmen are already guarding the perimeter outside. Leaving the helpless thugs to stand on the roof, curse, and watch him escape from afar. Therefore, Eggsy successfully locates the prestigious facility Harry mentioned, Kingsman, the oldest and most exclusive tailor shop in England. Founded in 1849, this legendary shop cuts bespoke clothing for the Queen of England herself. When Eggsy enters, Harry is already sitting there waiting for him. Through Harry's elite manners and precise methods, Eggsy quickly realizes Harry is no ordinary tailor when Harry scans his fingerprint on a mirror, transforming the entire dressing room into a high-speed elevator that descends thousands of meters into the ultra-secret Kingsman headquarters. Therefore, Eggsy is introduced to Merlin and joins a group of elite high-society candidates competing for a single vacant seat in the organization. But the seat is only vacant because of a ruthless tragedy. Days earlier, an elite Kingsman agent was brutally sliced in half during a rescue mission by Gazelle, a lethal assassin with razor-sharp blade prosthetics for legs. Gazelle works for Valentine, the world's #1 tech billionaire, who is secretly plotting a dark global agenda. When a European princess rejects his evil plan and tries to flee his compound, Gazelle uses her terrifying speed and blade legs to instantly slaughter the princess's entire security detail. Therefore, Kingsman desperately needs to find their next top agent from this new batch of recruits to handle the threat. Because Eggsy is dressed like a street hoodlum, the arrogant Oxford and Cambridge candidates instantly look down on him. But Eggsy doesn't care, focusing entirely on the training. But he quickly learns how lethal this selection process truly is on his very first night. While the recruits are fast asleep, the entire barracks room is suddenly flooded with water all the way to the ceiling. Therefore, panic explodes. The other candidates rush to the bathroom area, using a shower hose inside the toilet bowl to share oxygen. But Eggsy refuses to just sit and wait. He swims directly to the glass wall and uses his street instincts to find a structural weakness, slamming his fist into the glass. Therefore, the glass shatters violently, and the trapped water surges out into the hallway, sweeping the drenched candidates right to the feet of their trainer, Merlin. But before anyone can celebrate passing the test, Merlin coldly announces that they have all failed, because they left one candidate behind to drown. While Eggsy learns the true danger of the program, Harry launches a rogue investigation to find out who killed his fellow agent. He tracks down the rescued meteorologist at a university. But before the professor can reveal any secrets, a hidden chip in his neck suddenly detonates, blowing his head to pieces. Merlin discovers that the meteorologist's head explosion was triggered by a high-tech microchip implanted in his neck. Therefore, the team traces the tech straight to global billionaire Richmond Valentine. Eggsy is actually a huge fan of Valentine, but his admiration turns to suspicion during a live press conference. Valentine announces he is giving away free SIM cards that grant unlimited data and calls to everyone on Earth for life. The entire world goes crazy for the offer. But Harry and Merlin notice that Valentine's elite staff all possess surgical scars on their necks. Therefore, smelling a massive global conspiracy, Harry launches a deeper investigation into Valentine's true motives while Eggsy enters the final, most dangerous stage of his training. Only 3 candidates remain: Eggsy, a beautiful classmate named Roxy, and a tall, arrogant rival. For their final field test, Merlin tasks them with extracting secret info from a target girl at a club. But before they can charm her, their drinks are spiked and they completely pass out. Eggsy wakes up tied directly to a train track with a speeding locomotive barreling down on him. A mysterious masked interrogator demands he betray Kingsman and give up Harry's name, or get crushed to death. But Eggsy refuses to break, choosing to face the oncoming train rather than talk. The train roars directly over him, but Eggsy survives unharmed. Turns out, the tracks were a hollow prop, and the whole setup was an ultimate test of loyalty under pressure. Eggsy passes with flying colors. But his tall rival panics and squeals everything before the train even arrives, therefore getting instantly disqualified. In the end, only Eggsy and Roxy make it to the final selection. Proud of his recruit, Harry takes Eggsy to the private equipment vault beneath the tailor shop to dress him like a true gentleman spy. Eggsy is outfitted with bespoke George Cleverly Oxford shoes fitted with a lethal poison-tipped toe blade. He is handed a custom 10-shot Tokarev pistol, a Conway Stewart fountain pen containing a remote-activated toxin, and a signet ring that delivers a massive 50,000-volt shock. But as they prepare to exit the vault, they walk right into Valentine himself, who has come to the tailor shop under the guise of buying a suit to scout out his enemies. Both sides play perfectly polite, but the underlying tension makes it clear that their next meeting will be a war. Therefore, Eggsy is brought before Arthur, the supreme leader of Kingsman, for his absolute final initiation. Arthur praises Eggsy for training his pug, whom Eggsy has named JB. But the praise turns cold when Arthur hands Eggsy a loaded pistol and commands him to shoot JB dead to prove he can put the agency above everything else. Eggsy looks down at his loyal dog and hesitates, but his humanity wins out and he lowers the weapon, refusing to pull the trigger. Suddenly, a gunshot echoes from the next room. Roxy has shot her dog, therefore winning the title of the new official Kingsman agent. Disqualified at the final hurdle, a devastated Eggsy is kicked out of headquarters. In a fit of pure anger, he hijacks a Kingsman taxi, drives back to his rough neighborhood, and changes right back into his old street clothes, believing his spy journey is completely over. But Eggsy noticed that his mother had bruises around her eyes, clearly beaten by her boyfriend. In a fit of anger, he drove to find that gangster. When he was about to get out of the car to fight him, the Black Dix 4 car suddenly locked itself and sped away. It turned out Harry had remotely controlled the car to take him to his house. Harry was very disappointed in Eggsy. He blamed him for giving up a precious opportunity, just for a dog, and stealing his boss's car. Eggsy explained that the gun the leader gave him didn't actually have bullets. He had done the same thing, all to test if he was determined to carry out the mission. While Harry was scolding Eggsy, the trainer Merlin suddenly called. It turned out that the vest they made for Valentine had a listening device attached, so they overheard Valentine Abuto conduct a chip experiment at a church. If successful, Valentine will deploy the operation globally. Hearing this, Harry decided to go to the church to assess the situation and asked Eggsy to stay at his house. But they didn't know they had fallen into Valentine's trap. The church was full of people with negative and hateful thoughts. Harry listened to them grumble for a while and felt there was nothing special, so he was about to leave, but in fact Valentine was hiding in the room opposite the church to observe through the camera. When he saw Harry preparing to leave, he started his experiment. After turning the start button, everyone in the church who had a phone with a chip all received a message at the same time. Then everyone's phone made a piercing sound. Everyone seemed to be affected by this sound, including Harry. Then Harry acted crazily. He pulled out his gun and shot the woman next to him to death. Then the whole church fell into chaos. Everyone frantically rushed to slaughter each other. Harry, with the skills of a top agent, also became a killing machine.
Callahan, can you hear me? Harry, what the heck is going on?
I didn't expect it to be that effective.
So everyone's been affected, whether they have a symptom.
Oh, you need to see.
Soon everyone in the church was dead, leaving only Harry alive. At this point, he also gradually regained consciousness and was extremely shocked by the brutal scene he had caused. Eggsy, watching from afar through the screen, was also extremely frightened and didn't know what to do. When Harry left the church in a daze, Valentine's group was already waiting outside. It turned out this was his secret experiment. His chip could affect people's brains and activate violent instincts, causing people to kill each other. Then Valentine didn't say anything more, pulled out his gun, and shot Harry to death on the spot. Eggsy witnessed from afar and screamed in pain. He couldn't believe that his teacher had died like this. Remembering Harry's sincere teachings, he decided not to let things end like this. He returned to the Kingsman tailor shop and went to see the leader. At this point, most people in the world had received Valentine's free chip. If Valentine sent a signal globally, the consequences would be unimaginable. Eggsy hoped Kingsman could stop Valentine and avenge Harry. However, the leader showed no grief for the loss of his teammate. When he poured wine for Eggsy, he suddenly realized something unusual. He saw that the leader also had a surgical scare in his neck. It turned out the leader had become Valentine's henchman. Eggsy drank the glass of wine the leader gave him, and immediately after the leader pulled out a pen, it turned out he had put poison in the wine. He could activate the virus at any time to kill Eggsy. He told Eggsy that Valentine had revealed his great plan to him. That was to use the chip to make the people he considered inferior kill each other to reduce half of the world's population. So the Earth would have more resources so the survivors could live longer and better. The leader was chosen to enter Valentine's new world. This greedy old man decided to give Eggsy a chance. If he joined them, he would spare his life. How could Eggsy stand on the side of this group of bad guys? The leader saw that Eggsy didn't give in and pressed the fountain pen button, but Eggsy still didn't react. While the leader himself began to feel a sharp pain in his chest due to the virus outbreak, it turned out Eggsy had taken the opportunity to swap glasses with the leader. The leader couldn't believe he had been defeated by a street kid. Looking at the leader's corpse, Eggsy suddenly had an idea. He used a fountain pen to open Theskar on the leader's neck and took out the controlled chip, thinking that it might be needed in the future. Just then the leader's phone suddenly rang. It was an invitation from Valentine inviting him to attend the launch ceremony of the global plan. Eggsy immediately found the trainer Merlin and told him the whole story, because he didn't know who else had been bought by Valentine. Now it was just the three of them against Valentine. Merlin proposed a plan to divide into two groups. He told the female student to fly into space by private jet to destroy Valentine's satellite, preventing the spread of nerve signals, while he and Eggsy would infiltrate Valentine's base to sabotage the plan from within. On the plane, Merlin gave Eggsy a suitcase. It was a gift that Harry had prepared for him before he died. Inside was a complete set of Kingsman equipment. Eggsy finally put on the Kingsman vest he had dreamed of. He also wore glasses like Harry, and from this moment he officially became a Kingsman. They used the leader's invitation to enter Valentine's base. This is a cave hidden deep in the snow-covered mountains. Eggsy was led into the center of the ceremony, where the powerful figures who would enter the new world that Valentine created were gathered. Eggsy found a government official who was using the internal network and used his watch to shoot a poisonous needle to defeat the opponent. Then he used the computer to help Merlin, who was on the plane, connect to the internal network system. On the other side, the female student had reached the designated altitude in space. When she was about to fire a missile at Valentine's satellite, one of the two balloons carrying the aircraft exploded, causing her to start falling rapidly. However, the remaining balloon couldn't hold for long. The female student tried to remain calm and aimed at the target. At this moment, the remaining balloon also exploded. The female student screamed and rushed down. She quickly opened the seat belt and escaped from the plane and opened the parachute. On the other side, Eggsy was suddenly stabbed in the neck with a knife by his tall classmate from before. It turned out he had joined Valentine. His call alerted Valentine, who was leisurely preparing for the final experiment. Seeing that Kingsman had infiltrated his system, he immediately panicked and hurriedly activated the global nerve signal. The group eagerly counted down, but the system didn't respond. The female subordinate checked the network and found that the satellite had been destroyed. He thought his mission was completed. Eggsy ran around the base destroying the pursuers and finally returned to the plane. But when he just sat down in the seat thinking the mission was completed, Merlin announced bad news. That he was forced to go back there. Although he had infiltrated the internal network, Merlin found that Valentine's bioneural system was too complicated to destroy immediately. If Valentine restored the satellite signal and touched the control panel, the world would still fall into hell. He led him to the weapon depot behind the plane. Here there are all kinds of weapons for agents. Eggsy smiled. He was immediately attracted by an umbrella. After all, his teacher Harry had used this umbrella. As for Valentine, he didn't sit still either. Although his satellite was destroyed, he had controlled many high-ranking officials from other countries. He immediately called to borrow a satellite from another country. As long as there was time to connect to the satellite network, the nerve signal could still be sent globally. So the time for Eggsy was running out. Running out is easy, but going back is very difficult. Valentine found that Eggsy was still not dead and strengthened the defense force. Although there is a special umbrella to help him shield from the rain of bullets, it still couldn't withstand the Blazer Tactical 2 sniper rifle. One shot pierced the umbrella. Seeing that he couldn't hold on any longer, Eggsy had to hide in a room. However, soldiers from both sides were increasing. Eggsy seemed about to die in this place. Merlin couldn't hide any longer either. Because the soldiers had brought anti-aircraft missiles, just one missile was enough to destroy their plane. In a critical situation, Eggsy suddenly remembered the chip he had taken from the head of the leader. He told Merlin that maybe they should try to use it. Merlin quickly turned back to the computer and prepared a surprise move. Although he couldn't break the nerve signal system, he could interfere with the chip system implanted in the enemy's head. Just as the soldiers were preparing to fire, Merlin pressed the chip explosion button. So all of Valentine's chips exploded, creating colorful fireworks around the necks of the officials who Valentine promised to have a new world. All went to the other world. Eggsy was exclaiming that Merlin was a genius when he heard a knock on the door from behind the iron door. He opened the small window and saw that it was the beautiful European princess. Eggsy really wanted to be a hero to save the beauty, but suddenly he heard Valentine's angry voice. It turned out Valentine only implanted chips in others but didn't dare to implant chips in his own head. However, at this time he had connected to another satellite and was about to destroy the world. Eggsy was about to leave when the princess promised to give him a sweet reward if he came back to save her. The foolish kid immediately became excited. At this time, Valentine pressed the button, causing the whole world to go crazy and people everywhere started fighting. Eggsy ran to the control room and fired a series of bullets, causing Valentine to fall to the ground for a moment, and the whole world returned to normal. But at this time Valentine's subordinate, the knife warrior, took action. She jumped down from above and attacked Eggsy, causing his gun to be slashed in half. The two began a final life and death battle to determine the winner. Valentine took the opportunity to run to the control panel and press the start button, causing the whole world to fall into chaos again. Eggsy didn't seem to be the knife warrior's opponent. Eggsy uses every ounce of his agility to dodge the lethal swipes, but Gazelle's reach is completely dominant. Biding his time, Eggsy maneuvers close, clicks his heels, and pops out the hidden neurotoxin blade from his Oxford shoe to scratch her arm. Therefore, the fast-acting poison instantly paralyzes Gazelle, sending her crashing lifelessly to the floor. Eggsy tears off one of her sharp prosthetic legs, spins around, and hurls it like a javelin straight through Valentine's chest. The console is shattered, the global signal shuts down, and billions of lives are saved. Therefore, the street kid officially cements his legacy, stepping into the shoes of his fallen mentor as the ultimate gentleman spy. If you love watching unstoppable targets turn the tables on their hunters with lethal precision, you need to check out our breakdown of Game of Death, 2010, right here on 2.2 Actions Recaps. If you thought the action inside this spy bunker was intense, just wait until you see Wesley Snipes as a top CIA bodyguard who gets framed by his own agency, forcing him to fight his way through a hospital packed with corrupt elite assassins. See you in the next arena.